What's up, everybody? We are here at Pizza Man Pub, 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York, and we are here with a very special guest. Never been able to have him here before, and I'm very excited to have you here. So, BVille Bills backers president Jeff Cook. Buffalo, there's a Believe right over here, right over our shoulder, and we have the opportunity to speak on the divisional round. The Bills, once again, with an opportunity to get the Chiefs, but we're going to go about history, Jim Kelly, Josh Allen. We just talked off the air, why does the media have an issue with him? So we'll talk about that, because I do not, as a member of the media of 18 years. So we'll talk about a lot of different things with the Buffalo Bills as this community in central and upstate New York gets excited about representation in the potential Final Four of the NFL. So, Jeff, before we go anywhere, welcome to the broadcast for the first time ever. Very happy to have you here.
Well, thanks, Dan. I appreciate you having me and look forward to talking all Bills.
Yeah, you know, and I got to give it up to Pizza Man because they're your official BVille Bills backers bar. So you got to say that like 10 times fast. But we have these awesome shirts that were made here, and I got to grab one of these the last event that we did here. So you can see the Pizza Man all decked out with the Buffalo colors here. And what does it mean to you that the Pizza Man has been so devout in supporting the BVille Bills backers and to being a bar for you guys and a home for you guys here in the community?
Well, it's pretty special in the fact that about 6 years ago I moved back here and started coming in here for games and talked to Jimmy, who owns Pizza Man, and we were like, hey, let's try to figure something out here and, you know, really get the Bills community to come together. Obviously, 6 years ago, we didn't have quite the success that they're having right now, so it's tougher to get some fans. And we came up with something, and you know, we applied with the BVille Bills backers community, and next thing you know, we're an official member of the chapter, and now we get pretty amazing crowds and a rowdy crowd, and looking forward to another rowdy crowd on Sunday.
Bring me into, like you said, being a piece of this BVille, you know, Bills backers, to be in the Buffalo Bills group, an official group, in a chapter. How did you go about creating that, and what made you want to be a part of it?
What made me want to be a part of it is to get together and get to know fans of the Buffalo Bills that are as passionate as I am about it.
Yeah.
You know, I always joke I sit around. So,
yeah.
And it's just it's a great community, and I always joke around like for 15 years while they were irrelevant, there's these closet Bills fans where they're like, yeah, I'm a Bills fan, but whatever. And we wanted to work to get them out, come out, have a good time, win or lose, at the time win or lose.
Yeah.
Now it's almost like life or death.
Yeah.
But win or lose, have fun, and it just so happened where it stacked up perfectly that we started the Bills backers, and all of a sudden they get Josh Allen, they're 13-3. Unfortunately, last year with COVID, we couldn't have a lot of fans, but this year they came out ready to roar, and it was just perfect timing. The stars aligned perfectly.
What was it like going through that? I mean, knowing how Sundays are, and then obviously sometimes, you know, Monday night and whatnot, but knowing what it's like to be a Bills fan, and here in the community, we know the game's typically going to be on at 1 o'clock. It's going to be on CBS, and you're going to be able to see that. When you can't come out and get together and have that community event, what did that do, you know, for you guys? And when you look at, you know, this BVille Bills backers chapter, how hard was it to not be with, you know, the brothers and sisters of this group, of this family? I mean, I would imagine watching the games obviously felt a lot different.
So you're talking about when COVID hit?
Yeah, going through COVID and not being able to be together.
So when COVID hit, it was tough. You know, I wanted to be down here so bad, but you couldn't, and it was. I think I watched 14 games by myself, and the year before, 2 years before that, I watched every game here. So you kind of just had to adjust. You know, yeah. Cocktails aren't flowing like they are here, so it's just an adjustment, you know. And
I was gonna say, who was making your drinks at home? Was anybody making drinks?
No, nobody was making drinks at home. I'm watching in my basement and just hoping and praying, and it made it a lot harder without cocktails. But in all, it was fun and made you appreciate what it was like to come watch a game with all your friends and the camaraderie of the Bills community and as a whole.
Yeah.
And now that we essentially got a year off, I find that everyone is appreciating it a lot more, which is cool.
what do you try to do as the BVille Bills backers? What do you try to do for your group, for your community that's maybe special? Is there anything that you do when you get together? Is there any part of it that you try to make a unique wrinkle? Do you do something when somebody comes into the group? Bring me into kind of maybe how you treat it, how you treat the community.
Honestly, we don't. It's kind of a simple process. We just our goal is to get as many Bills fans together as possible, and have just a rowdy time. We have people like Bill Phelan, who's here with us right now. Usually when he's in the house, he gets the hey, and then everyone follows.
Yeah.
He gets that going for us, so that's kind of his thing. But all in all, it's just getting as many Bills fans together as possible, and it's just one big party, and you can't beat it. It's almost like the biggest tailgate in the world for Georgia, Florida, but you're at Pizza Man Pub.
Yeah, and when you're here at Pizza Man, to have them be so open to you, what's it been like to be here? What could you say about the atmosphere here on a typical Sunday when there are no restrictions and you guys can all hang out?
Well, I can just speak on recency. Saturday night was absolutely electric crowd. Everybody was so fired up, and that's what's great about it. Even if you look past the Bills, everybody is out. Everybody works so hard during the week, and to see people have that joy in their life of 3 hours of hooting, hollering, clapping, hugging, just having a great time.
Yeah.
Saturday night was special in that moment. So that's the best part about it is, usually everybody's just having a great time, and it's a ton of fun.
So you become a Bills fan. You said it, and it was really cool how you said it before we jumped on the air here. I said, you don't really meet Bills fans that became a Bills fan, typically like, I was 28 years old, I decided to be a Bills fan, or I'm 41 and I just decided, why not? It usually, and I don't want to take the words out of your mouth because you said it so easily, but when I said when you're a Bills fan, you said...
You're born into it.
Yeah, and bring me into that. Just how there is that, like, you have been, you were, you are, you always will be. There's something about Buffalo fans that they don't deviate. If you're a fan of the Bills, you're a fan of the Bills, good, better, or worse, you're going to be there.
Yeah, my father was a season ticket holder in the early 90s, and then he had my brother and I, and things a little bit changed. But, I always joke, I look back at pictures when I was a little kid, and professional pictures done at JCPenney at the time. Here's a little name drop for you.
Yeah.
I was in Bills gear. My brother and I were in Bills gear, and it's the way of life. And as it evolves and grows, it's really cool. There's something special about your father and you having that bond where it's all Bills all the time. We love it. We talk all day throughout the season about things that we'll talk about X's and O's like we have an impact on the game or something.
Yeah.
And it's just fun. It's a way of life. It's not a fandom. It's a way of life.
Well, and that's the thing is I think when you are a fan and you love the team so much, and I want to talk about this because I do this, and I'm going to stand up for this. Did da-da-da-da-da. You say, hey, today we didn't play that well. Hey, today we could have been better. And, there's always that person that you meet every once in a while, hopefully once or twice your whole life and not all the time, but they'll be, when my college basketball team...
I believe that, but I also find myself... I try to correct myself with the they so people don't think it's too crazy, but now I'm to the point where they know it's crazy enough where I don't care, where I see it as... If you say we, look at the impact on Saturday night with the 69,000 we's.
Yeah.
That crowd was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that's the we for you. Your home crowd, what's a fan? What is a team without their fans? It's a team, it's a bunch of athletes, but look at the coverage in the media and everybody talking about Bills Mafia. Yeah. It's real. Teams don't want to come to Buffalo and play right now. That stadium was electric. You're on silent counts, you're doing everything. So everything, it's a we, yeah. Yes, I'm not part of the team, not in the locker room every day, but I feel like when you put your heart and soul into it, it's we, for sure.
And I'm getting some messages coming in. Bill Cook said, hi, buddy. And then Danny Espinoza said, the legend Cookie. He wants to know where your Bills horns hat is. Marilyn said, good job. So the Bills horn hat, bring me into
So, week 16, once they beat the Falcons, I bought on Amazon a Buffalo Bills headdress.
Yeah.
just try to be like Buffalo. Brought it in here Saturday night, wore it throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
So she as in the headdress is tucked away until Sunday, and it'll be out in full force for sure.
So you tuck it away and don't take it out until game time?
Correct.
Okay, all right. And
so I'm a very, when it comes to, I'm a very superstitious person. Up until last week, I wore the same Josh Allen white jersey with the same Tyler Bass shirt underneath for 3 straight years.
Well, and I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you how superstitious you are, because Gina Castelli, who used to be the Lemoyne women's basketball head coach here in our community, she's a huge Buffalo fan, and she told me if they win, she has to wear that same, whatever she's wearing that day, she has to wear the same thing, sit in the same spot in the house. So if they're like 3-0, then she's always sitting on that arm of the couch with that jersey on, watching the game from there, doing that. If they lose, then she has to change something a little bit. So how superstitious do you get?
I'm pretty terrible.
Okay.
Give you an example. Week 1, I had a new Bills hat, wore it. They lost to the Steelers. I haven't worn the hat since.
Okay.
So that's pretty much how it goes, and it's actually funny. You said Bill Cook just typed in. He always laughs at me for my superstitions, but this week he lives down in Florida, and he wanted to watch the game with one of his best friends, but this year they're 0-3 watching together, so they did not watch the game together. So everybody has a superstition, whether they want to believe it or not. I'm just open about it, and I have no issue saying yes. I have worn the same, like I said, the same Josh Allen Bills jersey that has seen some things for sure.
Yeah, and the thing is I mean, I think you kind of have to, because I've been that way too. Like, my girlfriend we watched a Syracuse game together, and they won. And then I think we watched another one, and they won, and I was like, okay, so every time we're together, they've been winning, so we should probably watch these games together. The only thing is, though, those were away games. And at the home game, I'm in the dome, and she's not there. So, but it was that mentality, as I was like, you kind of spoiled me, because we watched this, they won. When I'm at your house and I was watching this team, they won. So she's been very good to have on my side when I'm watching these games, but we haven't been able to watch every game together. She's a Steeler fan, and normally when I'm with her this season watching the Steelers, it'll come down to the wire. She was always afraid they were going to lose, and then they would win when I was there. So
you were caught watching all the Steelers game when they won.
I saw the Watt jersey when I came. I was like, listen, there's one MVP on the team all season, and it's TJ Watt, without a question. I mean, everyone wants to talk about it's, Big Ben's last year and what's Najee Harris doing and what this and what that. TJ Watt was, and will be. Without him, they win, I don't know, 2 games maybe?
They're not great. Their offense can't really move the ball so well. So, TJ Watt's huge, and I always think about it on the Bills side. I'm like, man, if they had a pass rusher like that, I can't even think about it because I get too excited, you know what I mean?
I was going to say, there's guys like TJ Watt that just make you super happy, and when they're not on your team, that's the thing. When somebody's not on your team and you love watching them, that says something about that player.
Correct.
When you just can't, you're like, yeah, okay, I didn't grow up watching the Steelers, but I'll watch TJ all day.
Correct, and I think that's what you're getting now with Josh Allen.
And I was just going to say that. I feel like when people aren't Bills fans, they still root for Josh Allen.
Yeah, Josh Allen it's literally a roller coaster. It's the highs, the lows, but it's thrilling. I actually saw something funny this week that Josh Allen's kind of like a golden retriever out there. He's just this big goofball, but he gets on the field and he's a colossal freak, and somebody's like, he's Air Bud. Yeah. He's just nuts. You don't know what he's going to do next, but he's just a big goofball having a great time that just happens to be an absurd athlete. So it's I get what you're saying, and then I've seen people that I don't even talk to a lot reach out and be like, man, this dude's fun to watch. And he really is. He's special.
Yeah, like I was here, and when we were doing the event with Al Romano, we do a piece of Wake Up Call called Off the Rails with Al, and Al and I were here for the Monday Night Football game for the Bills, and you were here for that, and when they played up against the Patriots, and we were the prelude to the game, and we're throwing stuff out, and then I said to Jimmy, I was like, can I take a couple of these shirts for myself? Yeah. So I took this one, and I took one of the Josh Allen ones, and I was like, I wore it yesterday, and I'm like, I just want to wear it. Yeah. Like, I didn't grow up a Bills fan, but I want to wear this Josh Allen shirt because I love watching Josh Allen. Like I said, and I said it to you off the air, since Jim Kelly, I have not, nobody in between has made me go, gosh, you want to see him win. You love watching him. Josh gets me so excited for Sunday. and it's not even the team that I grew up watching.
Right, yeah, for sure. And in my end, I saw the tail end of Kelly's career where, I don't remember it as too much, but I thought when Buffalo got Tyrod Taylor, I was so warped of not having good quarterback play that I thought Tyrod was the answer. No disrespect to Tyrod, he got us to the first playoff game, but when you finally see that, you're like, wow, I've been denied this for so long, but now it makes you so much more grateful to have somebody like Josh Allen.
Yeah,
Fitzmagic.
Gotta love Fitzmagic. Always love Fitzmagic.
Flutie was the last big one.
Well, and that's the thing is, so Doug, I had the opportunity of meeting Doug Flutie. So I guess what I should have said was a guy that made me feel like Super Bowl was Jim Kelly and now Josh Allen.
Correct.
But Doug, for me, he was, before the Kurt Warner and bagging groceries, you thought Doug was the guy that was like the bartender at Pizza Man.
Yeah.
You thought he was the guy that was working at Wegmans down the road. When I didn't get, there's been over 3,000 guests that I've had on Wake Up Call, and I have not gotten like starstruck, right? But I'm down in Florida, and I'm working in the state of Florida. I was on ESPN 1080, the team at the time, and the Florida Tuskers of the UFL came out, and so they're another pro league outside of the NFL, and through them I met John Gruden, Jay Gruden. I met a lot of Dominique Rhodes, who won a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. I had the opportunity to meet Brooks Bollinger, Avion Kaysen, a lot of great guys, Joe Theismann, and we became friends, Joe and I, from there. So I'm down there experiencing this, and then for whatever reason, they had to connect to Doug Flutie. So they said, hey, Flutie's coming to practice. I'm standing there waiting to interview him, and my face is like getting tight. And I'm like, why am I feeling like this? I felt like I was like, am I going to be able to speak? I felt like my lip was quivering, and I'm like, I never get this way. But it was because he was like he's an everyday guy. Yes. He's the guy walking down the street. And to me, it was like, and the way his hair is and all that, you think he's like an 80s band, right, singer and whatever. So going up and meeting Doug Flutie, I just remember standing next to him like, Flutie Flakes, this man did. I remember when he signed with the Bills, I got his card, and I put the card of him holding up the jersey at the press conference, and I put it right on my mirror on my dresser growing up as a kid. And I looked at it all the time when somebody told me I couldn't do something, I wasn't ever going to make it, I kept that Flutie picture right there to remind me everybody can achieve their dreams, anyone can do it, don't ever let yourself get counted out. So I guess my nerves were from the fact that I had looked up to him and just realized like he was one of those people that made you believe the impossible was possible.
For sure, yeah. I mean, Doug Flutie blends in a crowd like the punters and kickers do. If you're an avid fan, you're not going to understand like, oh, you don't understand that starting quarterback of an NFL team. You're like, oh, that guy works at the bank down the road. So yeah, no, it's Flutie was the best, and that was when I first started to really fall in love with football in 97, 99, that range, and it was for sure. Yeah, Flutie definitely had an impact on my fandom.
Yeah, we're looking at some of these messages coming through here. A lot of great stuff coming from Pizza Man. Marilyn said, good job. Stacy Lynn said, go Jeff, Fave 5. And then we have Mallory said, hi, Daddy, from Marley and Henry. Go Bills. Bill said, live from 32,000 feet. Pizza Man liked your Airbud thing. Kelly's happy to see you here. And then Stacy said, Coop said, thanks for the Josh.
The Josh Jacks.
The Josh Jacks. Okay.
The Flutie, have you ever had those? So he has his own cereal now.
Yeah, I haven't had the Josh Jacks, yeah. I buy them. It's the Apple Jacks, right?
Yeah, so I buy them and I say that for my kids, but I mean, 4 of the 5 bullets I'm eating.
Yeah, listen, in today's world, you used to think, like, I remember growing up I loved comic books, right? So I'm a big Spider-Man fan, big Venom fan, and growing up as a kid, I had to hide it in my social studies book. I played basketball, couldn't tell anybody because you couldn't be a nerd and a jock. You couldn't play basketball and read comics. Nobody understood that. And nowadays, I tell kids, I'm like, if you see a girl walking through the hallway and she's wearing a Spider-Man tank top, marry that girl. Because now, now it's you can do it. There's millions of people that watch it, and so it's become a normal thing. And so I think in that same respect that some people don't talk about cereal. One of the kids I interviewed at Progressive Dental down in Kirkwood last week, we were talking about stuff. I asked him his favorite cereal, Oh no, I asked him what's the one food he couldn't live without. He said cereal, and he said Fruity Pebbles, and his teammates laughed, and I said, listen, he reminded me I had just bought a new box of Fruity Pebbles, and almost every single morning this week, that's what I had. And I'm like, I'm 36 years old. I'll look right into the camera. I love Fruity Pebbles. They're not for children. They're for me. And like, I'll go through the McDonald's aisles. I'll go through McDonald's sometimes on a rarity. If there's like a special toy or something significant, and I'm like, give me a Happy. And before you used to have to like prove you had a kid. Now I just ask for the Happy Meal. Nobody says anything. And I take the toy and I go about my life. So tell everybody that you have Josh Jacks, because why be ashamed of it?
Yeah, and they're good.
They're so good. Yeah, I'm sure they are.
The other thing, you know what I mean? So.
We got asked from Brian, what's our favorite Pizza Man pizza?
What's going on, Bri? Best, in my opinion, is the Sweet Heat. But all their specialty pizzas, all their pizza, but their specialty pizzas, buffalo wing.
Yeah.
But Sweet Heat is, in my opinion, in a class of its own.
So somebody who hasn't had Sweet Heat, describe what's on it.
It is hot, yeah, the Mike's Hot and Honey sauce drizzled on it with the small pepperoni. I don't know what the practical terminology is. The small pepperonis, Sweet Heat drizzled, sliced meatballs with basil over the top of it. It's incredible. And
so I love stuff like that. Sweet Heat is awesome. I would also say the ricotta. People say ricotta. But being Italian, the ricotta, the pizza that they have there, really anything with that you put on top of it.
Yeah, I just had ricotta yesterday.
Yeah. So, but it's good. I think the Sweet Heat was what I had. Not most recently. I had the Meat Lovers one with Al, but then I think before that I had the Sweet Heat. And I'm trying to decide what I'm getting tonight. And now that we're talking about Sweet Heat, I'm going there. But we talked about off the air. My favorite Pizza Man anything is the lemon pepper wings. Extra crispy, and it makes me think of Lemon Pepper Freestyle by Drake all the time. Nobody does lemon peppers better than Pizza Man. I would guess I would probably say they're even better than that Atlanta strip club that has the Lou Wills.
Oh yeah, for sure. Risking Lou Williams, a couple of suspensions, but you got to get your lemon pepper. I get that.
Hey man, you leave the hotel. You could give everybody COVID, but you had to go to your strip club wings.
You got to risk it for the biscuit. You know?
Yeah, I guess you have to. But when I saw the lemon peppers here, I love them. And the great thing about it is I love them so much. And people they're like, oh, lemon pepper, and it's like off the beaten path. Mm-hmm. So usually the people at my table are like, no, you can go ahead. I don't know if I want to. And I love that. I love when I don't have to. Because you know when you ask somebody, do you want to try it? In your head you're saying, please say no. And then every once in a while somebody goes, oh yeah, I'll have some. And I'm like, come on. So I'll be hospitable, but I don't want you to.
No, I'm with you, for sure.
So we were talking about Josh Allen and what he brings to the table. Coming from Wyoming, what I love about the NFL is D1, D2, D3, JUCO, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the name of the school is. If you're talented, they will find you.
They will 100% find you.
And what some people may not know about Eric Dungy is before he came to Syracuse, he was considering going to Wyoming when Josh Allen was there, and he was going to try and fight for the starting job with Josh Allen in Wyoming, and now you see where Josh is now. So obviously Eric came here, and to some people he's on the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks here, and Josh did what he did at Wyoming. I'll tell you this from his film, though. Loved his passing, became a big fan of him going into the draft, loved watching film on his arm, and then I went and saw him live play against my Jaguars. And that game, he had 8 carries for 100 yards. And I think what we've realized here in the NFL is
You saw it the other day. They've been putting up stats. He's the first quarterback in NFL history with 4,000-plus passing yards and 750-plus rushing yards. I mean, averaging, 7 yards a carry? The dude is just built different. But if you go back on your Wyoming thing, if you look through the NFL landscape, probably the last 15, 20 years of quarterbacks, you can kind of line something up. Josh Allen, he didn't play. He played with, one other pro? Ben Roethlisberger, Miami of Ohio. Carson Wentz, North Dakota State.
Yeah.
And there's a ton more, and they end up being successful because these teams find them, and they're doing as much as they can. The numbers might not show it. And then you look at somebody like, I don't want to say anything, but like Tua. You don't know if he's going to work because he had the structure he had in Alabama.
How about any quarterback in Notre Dame recent history in like the last 20 years in the NFL?
Yeah. Ian Book gave it a go this year, but that didn't go well.
Brady Quinn. I mean, it's been so bad. But no, you're right, because people do say that. are you good because of the 5-star talent that's around? Well, I don't like using the star system, but, are you good because you were the quarterback of Alabama? Are you good because you were the quarterback of Florida? Or are you good because you're good? So you bring up a great point. At Wyoming, he has to be good. In Alabama, you can be mediocre.
Alabama, and that's the thing. And again, it's no knock on these guys, but Alabama, they've had Mac Jones. Tua struggled. He's had his struggles in the NFL. Jalen Hurts, and then he went to Oklahoma. You're not gonna be able to throw to Alabama or Oklahoma open in the NFL because guys aren't that open, and you don't have that big of a talent gap where. All right, you look at Josh. He was going up against better talent, at least early in the season. I remember first seeing Josh. He played Iowa. I think he was 9 of 24 or something like that, threw a couple picks. And I just said this. I remember texting my dad. I go, well, I really hope this guy's the next best quarterback. And he looked at his numbers. He's like, oh. I was like, just trust. I mean, it's a different thing. I mean, these guys in Alabama, they're all going to put up eye-popping numbers. But you're not going to have a... I mean, what did the one year they had? What Alabama had? Ruggs, Judy.
Well, it was the last
Smith.
time that they played with. The last time when Alabama played in 2018 against Georgia in the college football playoff championship, the touchdown passes that Tua threw were to Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith, and to there was one other guy.
Judy?
Was it? Yeah, it was. I think it was. And so when you look at it, I'm like. Number one receiver, and you know what I mean? So it's like you look back on it and you look at those teams and you're thinking, how could anybody even compete with them on the field? So that is a fantastic point.
And you forget about, their offensive linemen. I bet 3 of those dudes are first-round picks.
Right.
I mean, it's no knock on these guys that obviously want to play at a big school, and I'm sure if Josh Allen had the chance to go play at Alabama, he would have, but you kind of see it. Aaron Rodgers, JUCO, he dealt with adversity.
Yeah.
Stud. Tom Brady didn't start at Michigan. Patrick Mahomes had a couple different coaches with Kingsbury and won 5 or 6 games here in college. Stud. So I found that you see these guys that are dealing with more adversity in college, and they're not in a Nick Saban, Lincoln Riley type structure where it's. And that's why I think about like Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones to a point like. I don't want to say peak, but he is what he is. Like, because he was, you saw it so much in college. Like, he's been in such an organized structure with Nick Saban, where what is his peak? And you see it with Baker Mayfield too. I mean, when he was at Oklahoma and he came out guns a-blazing, but like he plateaued so quick. And not saying that it's a bad plateau, but I think you got the best of Baker Mayfield already.
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at Baker, you look at Johnny Manziel, you look at the Notre Dame quarterbacks of recent history, you look at. Quarterbacks from USC. You look at the Matt Barkleys and the Matt Leinerts and whatnot. I mean, you look at these guys that looked great in college, and then when they came to the NFL, they didn't translate. Josh Allen and Carson Wentz and Trey Lance and whatnot, they're facing an uphill battle because just to get somebody to look at them, and the NFL's better, in my opinion, than the NBA. The NBA does it based on what they think you'll be. The NFL does it on what they see you and know you are.
Correct.
And when you're watching the NFL and they're just scouring the talent, their scouts are incredible. But, it's funny that you bring that up today because I never thought of that point where Josh Allen, when he looks great and you look at his numbers, what do some people say? Oh, well, he played in a crappy conference. If he was in the SEC, he'd get killed. And I'm like, yeah, but if he was in the SEC, he'd have 9 minutes to throw the ball.
Right.
If he was in the SEC, he'd have 3 first-round draft pick receivers. If he was in the SEC, he would have a running back who's going to be drafted in the top 20. So, I mean, yeah, if you go to Alabama or Arkansas now or Auburn or LSU or Georgia or Texas A&M, you're going to have talent. Instead of people saying, yeah, you're doing it in a conference that nobody cares about, how about this? When you're putting up those numbers and you're making that happen, that to me is substantial. And if you want to see the reality of it, look at bowl season when you have 43 bowl games and all these teams playing each other that don't usually play each other. And you're like, how the hell can that team be that good against this matchup? And it's because they have the talent. And you don't always, the MAC, there's a ton of talent in the MAC. I mean, I look at Western Michigan, what Tim Lester did here as the OC and the quarterbacks coach. He's got an awesome team, and they beat the hell out of Nevada.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think it's another angle to say when somebody says, who cares about Wyoming, the other angle of it is saying Josh Allen didn't have.
If you look at what the 8 teams left, Burrow, Ohio State, transfer, adversity, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. The only one that really was left, I guess, that was a blue chip, can't miss, and he's awesome, was Matthew Stafford. All the other ones faced some sort of adversity in college, and I really do think, because once they get into that structure in the NFL, and the Bills did a great job of McDermott being, and nothing has changed since, and I think that is so huge to that consistency and camaraderie of, I mean, Baker Mayfield's had, 4 coordinators? Josh Allen's had 1 coordinator, 1 head coach. I think that's huge.
Well, yeah, and what people fail to realize, and, teams will talk about this all the time, is the fact that you look at a guy like Eric Dungy, he had a different quarterback coach like almost every single year here.
Yeah, and the head coach that really didn't even want him there.
Right, and then you have Tommy DeVito. He went through quarterback coaching changes, and when I spoke with Nate Hackett about Blake Bortles, when him and I were talking about it, he goes, Dan, this guy's had 3 quarterback coaches in 3 years, and everybody's putting it on him. But how is he supposed to get comfortable? And then I always think it's interesting when people say Mark Brunell is like, the savior of the Jaguars. He can't miss. He's the greatest ever. Number 2 on the stat board is Blake Bortles. If you look at Blake, to kind of go with the theme that we have, if you look at Blake Bortles, the interceptions that he had comparative to Mark Brunell, he was like on pace, and that was closer. The yardage was right there. The completion percentage was almost dead even. And Mark Brunell had all those numbers, greatest in Jacksonville history. No one's going to argue that. All of Mark Brunell's numbers came with Keenan McCardell, Jimmy Smith, Tony Baselli, Fred Taylor, Kyle Brady. Blake's numbers came with no name, and yet he's right on pace that he would eventually pass Mark Brunell if they actually let him be there. And so I tell people all the time, you might just say what everybody else says because a lot of people are sheep and not shepherds, but if you look at Blake's numbers, him and Mark Brunell are not that far off, especially completion percentage, like I said. And Blake did it with nobody. Mark did it with everybody.
Right. Mark had Keenan McCardell, Jimmy Smith, Fred Taylor, and Tom Coughlin was when he started was that coach. So he had that.
And you had an all-pro defense.
Right. Exactly. And it's huge like that. I completely agree with me. What Blake Bortles has 3 playoff wins?
Yeah, I think he had. Let me think about it. Blake had the one.
He had 2. So he has 2. Did he get 1 more? No.
I don't think he got another one.
So he's got 2 more playoff wins. Go through the NFL right now, I bet, of the 32 starting quarterbacks, and I bet you 16 of the 32, if not more, don't have 2 playoff wins.
Well, I tell people all the time, I'm like, hey, listen, Tim Tebow's got a playoff win against our reigning champion when the Steelers were there. Jamarcus Russell was the number 1 pick, and he has 0.
Correct.
I actually figured it out that if you looked at his win-loss record and how much money he got paid like $4 million every loss.
Yeah.
And I was like, anybody would take that. $4 million to lose most of the time.
Him and Sam Bradford are the reason they brought in the rookie pay scale.
Yeah, it's crazy to see. Yeah, when you look at some of these guys that were so hyped, Sam Bradford, and even look at like Jared Goff right now and where he's at. Detroit tested it. It didn't work. Now they move on. And you said of all the teams left in the NFL, most of these guys have gone through adversity in college. Well, Matt Stafford went through adversity in the NFL. So
we went through 12 years and 13 years of adversity. Yeah.
And finally got off the stat of being one of the most successful arms in the NFL that had never won a playoff game. Now he's off that list.
Right. Yep.
So I think that it's really amazing, Jerry Rice, D3 receiver. It's so cool to see Abilene Christian and like these random schools where people are going, how in the hell did that guy and that lineman and that? Because they're looking at raw talent.
Yep.
They're looking at work ethic, what they've done, how they answer questions, who they are in the community. Like there's there's really, really good scouts, and then there's mediocre scouts. And like the Patriots are notorious, and I know this is blasphemy on a Bills show, but the Patriots are notorious for finding the talent that nobody else cares about.
For sure.
You got a backup quarterback from Michigan that played almost none at all, and in the 6th round in a compensatory pick, he becomes the greatest quarterback arguably in NFL history?
Right? No. And I even look at it as I think it's more impressive when you see these guys change positions in the NFL. Look at Matt Milano, linebacker for the Bills. He was a safety at Boston College.
Yeah.
Buffalo was smart enough. He never played safety in the NFL. And now he's a Pro Bowl linebacker and is a huge
And I loved him
key
at
of their
BC.
defense. And he was a safety at BC.
Well, and the cool thing about Buffalo is I selfishly have somebody that I've interviewed or covered in college in my trails because I cover teams from all over the country, and very thankful to God and very blessed to do that, and thank all the conferences and the schools for allowing me to. But Ed Oliver from Houston, Levi Wallace from Alabama, and Matt Milano from BC, I had all of them beforehand. So when I see them all go on to Buffalo, I'm thinking, okay, I hope, because Levi wasn't a starter to me. So I'm like, okay, I hope Levi gets in there. I hope Matt gets in there. I know Ed was a high pick, so he was going to squeak in there. But selfishly, I like watching the Bills when I get to see this defense make plays and succeed, because these are the guys that I was rooting for before they came to Buffalo. Right. And shout out again to the scouting of the Bills to go, this Levi Wallace guy, we can bring him in here. May not start right away, but we're going to work him in. Matt Milano, we're going to, like you said, move him and use him. And Ed Oliver, he came from Houston, and people knock the American Athletic Conference that I've covered since its institution. Why don't you do your research on the guys they send to the NFL? The American Athletic Conference is one of the best places to find NFL talent.
For sure.
And,
Especially
here's big old Ed. What'd you say?
Especially in the later rounds, for sure. I mean, Ed, obviously not Ed. He was 9th overall, but
yeah,
the whole conference is a scope, for sure.
And so, I think that... So let's go into... We brought up the Patriots, so let's talk about the Patriots here for a second. As a Bills fan, describe to me, if I gave you like an open letter that you could say anything in the world and not get in trouble about the Patriots, remember it's a family show, if I said to you that the letter would start, Dear Bill Belichick, I believe the New England Patriots are blank. Fill in the blank for me.
For me, it's a nightmare.
Okay.
I mean, they were a nightmare. They've given me hell my entire fandom, and it made it even harder having one of my best friends as a diehard Patriots fan, and he was a great fan about it. But you take it on the chin. So as an open letter, it's like I would like plead to him, like, why are you doing this to me? You know what I mean?
Why do you hate me?
Like, yeah. Like, what did I do to you?
Yeah.
It was a nightmare. For 20 years, 18 years, I was like, it's almost like Buffalo started 0-2. They go 9-5, and then 0-2 against the Patriots, 9-7, don't make the playoffs. So
yeah,
it was a nightmare. I have so much respect for Bill Belichick. How would you not? But damn, was it? It was tough, for sure.
Well, and the thing is, and I've said this many a time about Bill Belichick, I respect him as a coach, arguably one of the best ever, some people the best ever. We can argue that on a different day. But I will also say that Bill Belichick, to me, when you look at his face and just the way he is, Bill Belichick to me is, if a human being could embody what it would look like to be constipated, I think Bill Belichick is the human version of constipation. And I also, and I want to say this too about the NFL Network, because my guy Mike Sofka and I, we do fantasy football every Wednesday on my morning show, and him and I talked, when we talked about Bill Belichick, I would play the Imperial March from Star Wars, and he would call him Vader. And then, like I said, wouldn't it be great if they open the door to the post-game press conference and you hear the Imperial March, and then he gets up and he goes like this and it cuts off. And if it cut off 1 second later, like every week, he fires the sound guy because that's who he is. And then, 3 years later, the NFL Network goes, he's kind of like Bill, Bill's kind of Darth Vader, and the Imperial March would make sense. And I was like, wait a minute. I want royalty money for that, because we've called him Vader, and the Imperial March has been the song for a while, but I also call him the human embodiment of constipation.
Yeah, that's pretty good too, yeah. I would, if it was for me, if I could just be like, ask Bill Belichick one question, it's like The Office, Michael Scott asking Toby, why are you the way that you are?
Yeah, why are you doing this?
Yeah, why are you the way that you are personality-wise, and why are you doing this to me?
And
I have feelings, I'm a human being.
I would love to see the Office version of Bills and Patriots fans and like coaches talking to each other. It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it'd be it.
And players. Be awesome. But I'll tell you this, I'm a Jags fan. I've been a Jags fan since the institution of the Jaguars in '95. I told you off the air that as much as you loathe Bill Belichick, as a Jaguars fan, he has stood in my way of the playoffs numerous times. David Garrard and Byron Leftwich. Every time we'd get him in the first round, we're out. Like every time I saw that, I'm like, oh, we're playing the Patriots, great. And I still remember vividly one of the games, standing in front of my TV, sick to my stomach, having to leave the room, come back. I got upset. First half we did well. Second half, the doors blew open. I remember being in my pajamas, walking around my parents' house as a kid, so upset, so distraught, thinking in my head, why do you hate me, Bill? Why do the Patriots do this to us? The record against them was atrocious. And then a few years ago, here I am covering Jacksonville. Now this is my 12th year, on-site, on location in some respect. I go with them to the playoffs. We're in Jacksonville for the game against the Bills. I'm sorry. And so we're there and win that game, 10-9? I think it was like something close like that.
Yeah, I think we went 10-3.
10-3, okay. So we win that game, just really hard-fought game. So excited about that. My guy Ben Koyak went to work, who they almost never used in the passing game.
Peterman even got a couple snaps, threw a pick to Ramsey that day.
Yeah, I remember when Peterman came in and it was still within reach. And then when he threw the interception, I'm like, okay, it's over. Let's kneel down and call it a day. Ugly game. And then here we go with the divisional round game. We go to Pittsburgh. I'm in Pittsburgh. Win that game in Pittsburgh. I'm feeling great.
Smacked them.
Then I go to Foxborough, and I'll tell you this. I'm walking with my briefcase on, and I look down at the ground in Foxborough. I'm about to walk into the arena. We're going through the media entrance. I look down at my shadow. It was a sunny day. It was cold. I look up, and something inside of me, I was like, this is business. And I felt like I was walking into the belly of the beast. I honestly was like, I'm walking into hell. This is the belly of the beast. Almost nobody comes out of here alive. And I had a feeling in Gillette Stadium that I've had in no other stadium. That this is where you go to, this is where so many people go and don't come out with a win. And I walk in there, and someone asked me, when did you know it was over? And I said 6:06 remaining in the fourth quarter. I looked down at the field. I looked at the clock. There was a seat behind me, and my grandmother had passed G-Mama. And I looked at her, and I saw her there, and she went like this. And I was like, it's over. I knew it was over. And then I had to leave there that day, and not only did they knock my Jaguars out of the playoffs, but as a credentialed member of the Jaguars media, we had an opportunity to have space in the press box for the Super Bowl, and we had gotten contacted by the NFL. If and when you win, we'll be in touch. So they not only kicked the Jags out of the Super Bowl, they technically, potentially kicked me out of the Super Bowl. So I've grown up not liking the Patriots for what they did to Jacksonville, not appreciating what they did, seeing it, and then personally and professionally not going to the Super Bowl because of what they just did to them a few years ago. So you don't have to be a Bills fan to know that the Patriots really, they just, if you're anything but a Patriots fan, the way you feel is it's pretty clear.
So, if it makes you feel better, Tom Brady is 32-3 against the Bills.
Okay.
So 35 games I watched Tom Brady play the Bills. He won 32 of them. And he won probably 29 of those 32 pretty handily.
Yeah.
So I'm with you there. But if you flip the switch, how impressive it is that Josh was able to take the whole team, put it on his back. Just a few weeks ago, went into Foxborough and played damn well and the team on his back, and they won 33-21. And that right there, yes, you can go back to the win game. I'm not, it is what it is, but his numbers without that win game last 3 games against the Patriots, I mean, he's like 72% completion with 12 touchdowns, no turnovers. I think that stigma, maybe he's just built different. It didn't faze him. And it seems to not. I mean, you just saw it a couple days ago. It doesn't faze him like it does other players. I don't know if that's going to be obviously the Tom Brady effect is a real thing, but it also is, I think Josh is just wired different. He just, he wasn't intimidated by Bill Belichick. You can't be intimidated and go 21 to 25 for 5 touchdowns. I mean, you just can't do that.
Well, and the thing is he knows what it felt like to go 14-10 and have that game end the way it did, where the offense didn't get going. It was a blizzard going into the game, and that Buffalo didn't do it when at that time they had the opportunity. The Patriots were in the driver's seat of the AFC East. If the Bills won, they would have jumped them and been first. Then they would have been commanding. When they lost that game, they gave more of a cushion to the Patriots. And if the Patriots kept winning and didn't falter at all, we were looking at a situation where Buffalo was maybe that day gave up the division.
Yeah.
And so for them to go into Foxborough, win 33-21, yeah, Tom Brady's not there this season and he wasn't there last season, but let's be real. It's still Bill Belichick. Mm-hmm. He has made Matt Castle, Jimmy Garoppolo, Tom Brady, Mac Jones.
Jacoby Brissett.
Everybody's looked good in New England because, he just knows how to get the right talent. He knows how to get the right guy. And I will tell you, if you check the tape, I prognosticated in the draft, in my mock draft, that Mac Jones would fall to number 15, the Patriots would not have to move, and that the NFL would let him fall right into their lap, and that he was going to get something good out of Mac Jones, and Mac Jones would be the starter as a rookie eventually during the season. I didn't anticipate he'd do as well. I didn't anticipate that he would start as soon, but I said he will be the starter by week 7. He's going to be fine, and I believe that was the guy that Bill Belichick wanted. So, it wasn't Tom Brady, but it's still the Patriots, it's still Foxborough, it's still Belichick, and let's face it, most people just, when you play the Patriots, there's something about the Bill Belichick factor that they're never out of a game.
No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, and I look at it at the same time, I mean, how many of these Patriots guys played consistently or played at all with Tom Brady that are on the team now? Yes, it's the logo. It's like the Yankees, the Lakers. Yes, the Patriots are a logo, but I don't think, once Tom was gone, I don't think teams feared him as much. And I think it took a 180 on Saturday night when you see, wow, Josh against the number 2 defense was 7 of 7 on drives with 7 touchdowns against a Belichick. I think going into next year, teams all believe, they're like, okay, maybe he isn't what he is. I mean, he lost his Robin or his Batman, whatever you want to put it.
Yeah.
And they're not as intimidating. And I think that Saturday night was just an eye-opening moment for the whole league.
Well, and what I thought was really interesting, too, about that game is that it was like 23-0, and then I think, right before halftime, they got a field goal, so it was 23-3. Yeah. And I'm still sitting there, and I looked at my girlfriend, I'm like, I know it's 23-3, and I want to feel good, but this is the Patriots.
Right.
These are the Patriots. Anything could happen. And then when you look at the end score, and they score almost 50, 47-17, you think about it like this. First game they played them, 14-10 loss at home. They go on the road to Foxborough, 33-21, win by double digits. They play you again in the playoffs, beat you by 30, put up almost 50, and like you said, 7 for 7, 7 touchdowns in the game for Josh Allen. They only got better in the season playing the Patriots and going up against Belichick. And what I said after last season was, hell hath no fury like a Belichick scorn. I said, think of Bill Belichick as like your ex-wife or ex-husband. They just saw you not only get married, but you look happier, your wedding was nicer, you're having a better time, you're more successful with that relationship than you were with theirs. So what did Belichick do? He took the check that he got from his ex, and that first check that he got in the divorce, he went out there and he's buying Lamborghinis and he's buying 3 houses. He's like, give me Hunter Henry, give me Jonnu Smith, give me this defender, give me this, give me this, give me this. I said, the NFL needs to be wary of the fact that because Tom Brady took a 4-win team and won without you, a team that was at times the only team in the NFC South to not go to the playoffs and the other 3 did, the Bucs without Bill Belichick, and I said, he's like an ex-wife who is going to spend all your money. And I was horrified of what that could mean. And I didn't want to see a Belichick-Brady Super Bowl. And thanks to the Buffalo Bills, We will not.
Not going to see it. That's for sure.
So, for you, besides the Patriots, who do you consider to be like the Achilles heel or the team you can't stand playing as a Buffalo Bills fan?
Tennessee Titans.
Okay. Why?
Well,
again, Jacksonville, that's our thorn in our side.
So
too.
I just have a bad taste in my mouth after last year with Tennessee. Well, the Music City Miracle. There's one.
Yeah. Oh, then you mean the forward pass?
The forward pass, exactly.
Okay.
The Music City forward pass. And then...
Back when you couldn't challenge?
Exactly. And then last year, they had all that COVID nonsense going on. The Titans did. In that game, remember that game was played on a Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Buffalo didn't know they were playing 24 hours before.
Yeah.
And then the Titans are all, look at us, we do, blah, blah, blah. And then Josh Allen slips this year on a 4th and 1 on Monday Night Football to win the game. So I look at it as I want the Bengals to win because I have friends that are, one of my best friends is a diehard Bengals fan, but talk about a revenge tour. Like you said, we talked about it before we got on air.
Yeah.
Patriots, you finally dethrone them. The Chiefs, get your revenge from last year in the AFC title. The Titans, the Music City Miracle. Just right there is your revenge, not the other little silly stuff. And then imagine if they get Brady in the Super Bowl and can slay Goliath. I mean, it's a Disney movie.
Well, and here's it for me. I'm going to show you how much a Bills and a Jaguars fan can parallel each other and how we're best friends and don't even know it. I'm going to go on your revenge tour and I'm going to make it clear, okay? The Patriots, thorn in the side of Jacksonville. We went over that already. The Chiefs, that's not really an issue, so I can put them to the side. The Titans, there's a weird stat, and I wrote a story about it on wakeupcalldt.com. You can see it on the articles tab if you click on Jacksonville Jaguars. There was a couple years ago when they went to the AFC Championship game against the Patriots. I did this weird stat thing about the Titans where not only have the Titans had the number of Jacksonville almost never beats Tennessee when playing them on a Sunday. They could only beat them on like Thursdays and Mondays. So they almost never beat them, and when they did beat them, it couldn't be on a Sunday.
Right.
It was a weird stat.
Probably,
I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like Tennessee and Jacksonville is Thursday night football.
Well, and it's
ugly mustard yellow uniforms.
And it should be. So you look at, but you go back and you look at it. So your revenge tour. So Patriots, I can parallel that with Jacksonville. Kansas City, no. Tennessee, I can parallel that every single season. And then Tom Brady, thorn in the side, keeping us out of the Super Bowl. So 75% of your revenge tour as a Bills fan is also my revenge tour as a Jaguars fan.
Yeah, no, that's crazy how it all works. But for sure, I mean, I feel like you're either a diehard Titans fan or you just don't like them. You know what I mean? It's just they're kind of just there, but they're always a problem. And I
can't stand.
I think Mike Vrabel. I know people can't stand him. That dude should win Coach of the Year this year for what he's done.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I just can't stand it. There's just nothing. I don't know.
There's one house in Eastwood that flies a Tennessee Titans flag, and I want to rip it down every time I see it. It makes me so mad. The Titans, the Patriots, and I mean, I probably, those would probably be the two that I just could not deal with. And I like the fact that as a Bills fan, you feel that too, because it does. It really shows you, like Jacksonville and Buffalo, different weather, same feeling.
Same feeling, for sure.
So,
and I also want Cincinnati to win because could you imagine the AFC Championship in Orchard Park?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That'd be a circus, literally.
And the cool thing about Cincinnati is that my third grade teacher, Mrs. Cuno, shout out to Mrs. Cuno. So at Our Lady of Pompeii, she was my teacher there, and we're still keeping in touch to this day, and I cannot thank you enough for your support. She's a Bengals fan through and through, named her Scotty Boomer when we were in school, and Cincinnati was so bad back then that she said if Cincinnati wins, we don't have homework, and they were like won 3 games a year at the time, so she knew like we were going to have homework every time. And like one day they won, and we told her, and we were like, Miss Kuno, they won, and she's like, they did. And I was like, yeah, and I'm like, dude, like this is almost probably going to never happen again. Like we can't have homework today. But back then, watching them play, and now seeing Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and it's such a fun team to watch. And I picked Cincinnati to win. I picked the Bills to win. So my AFC Championship is Cincinnati Buffalo.
Yeah, and I mean, did you see the thing the other day? I mean, Cincinnati's last playoff win, O.J. Simpson was interviewing Boomer Esiason. That's how long ago it was.
And that's,
What,
I mean,
91? Yeah.
and you say, like, think about it. Marvin Lewis was the equator line.
Right.
Get you to the playoffs, never win a game.
Right.
And then that time when they fired him, and then 2 weeks later hired him back.
Right.
I always paint the picture of like that room, and I say like, this is the room. They fire Marvin Lewis, and they're all sitting there, and they're like, all right, Bill, you got any ideas? No. Joey, still thinking about it. Steve, yeah, there's. I'm just gonna throw it out there, but there's this guy Marvin Lewis that's out there, and then Bill's like, yeah, we fired him, and Steve's going, I think he's the best candidate. Like, how many times do you fire and hire someone back onto your, like, you basically gave Marvin Lewis a 2-week vacation and then brought him back and then fired him again. It was such a weird scenario. But, you know, I want to, speaking of hirings that are actually good, when the Bills hired Sean McDermott, what were your honest? What were your thoughts when Sean McDermott got hired to the Bills, and what are your thoughts now?
No, my honest thoughts were, who the hell is this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was a defensive coordinator in Carolina, but you always thought that was Ron Rivera's defense. And he worked under Andy Reid. He actually was a defensive coordinator after Jim Johnson in Philly, which those are tough shoes to fill, as we all know. And Andy Reid actually fired him. So the Buffalo hired him, and I'm like, oh, here we go again. We got, you know, from Mike Mularkey, and we're back around to Sean McDermott and 4 coaches in between. And, you know, for about, I don't know, 2.5 years, I was hard on McDermott. You know, it was because you're so frustrated as a Bills fan. You want that next coach is the one. I was hard on Dayball too. I mean, those first couple of years, I was like, we can't score 18 points a game here. And then you saw what the Bagula saw in McDermott's leadership, his discipline, his everything, and his players bought into it. And they hired McDermott on players and a coach and a general manager being in sync. And I think that has been such a huge part of their success, is those two guys are on the same page with everything.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is like when Marone was there and the leadership that was there seemed to be a battle of sorts.
Yeah, for sure. It was a power struggle, you know what I mean? I mean, these head coaches sit down for the interview and say, I need X, 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 and I want control of the 50. Yeah, you'll have that. And then they're hired and you don't have that. It's kind of like when you go get a sales job, like, oh, you could make $150,000 a year, but you'll probably make 30. It's like they'll just say whatever they want to get you in the building, and they don't realize, like, why don't you just have an honest conversation? If it doesn't work with you, a general manager, and your head coach, find another one that works, because it's just going to set you back 4 more years.
Yeah, you know, and when we look at this and we talk about head coaching history, I find it very interesting going back to some of these names: Wade Phillips, Greg Williams, Mike Mularkey, and then, you know, we have Chan Gailey, we have Doug Marrone, Rex Ryan, and Dick Duran as well. Of the names before McDermott, Wade Phillips, Greg Williams, Dick Duran, Rex Ryan, Chan Gailey, Mike Mularkey. Of all of those names, who was your favorite and who was your least favorite?
My favorite was Wade Phillips. And he was young. I was younger when he was head coach, but I always liked Wade when he was in Dallas. You know, takes a certain breed to deal with Jerry all the time, and he always used to. I mean, he seemed to always be in the mix. Let alone it was 9-7, 10-6, 8-8. His teams were always in the mix, and I've always, you know, Wade probably got a raw deal in Buffalo because of the Flutie Rob Johnson thing. You know what I mean? But my least favorite, man, the rest of them. No, just kidding. I wasn't a huge fan. I mean, Greg Williams, his resume since then speaks for itself on his personality. So, Greg Williams is probably the easiest answer, but probably Greg Williams or Mike Mularkey. You know what it is about Mularkey and these guys? Like, you didn't even, if you were a fan in the NFL then, and you're like a real fan, you know the head coaches of teams. People didn't know who Mike Mularkey. They didn't know he was the head coach of Buffalo. Yeah. Like, at least you knew Rex Ryan was the head coach, whether you liked him or not. You knew he was the head coach. I know Mike Mularkey has been a good coach in the past, but like it goes back to the thing I said, like it's okay to be a good offense. If being an offensive coordinator is your peak, and if anybody in the real world said your peak is to be a vice president of a corporation, everyone signed the dotted line. But I see somebody like Dayball, who I really like as an offensive coordinator. Sorry, Dad, I really like him. I don't know, and I hope I'm wrong. I don't know that he's a head coach because it's such a different thing from play calling and managing an offense to being a CEO.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge issue. People say, like, oh, this guy's a great play caller. Let's make him a head coach. They're not the same thing.
No, and Doug Marone's not a good CEO.
Right, exactly. He's a great position coach.
Right.
And, I mean...
Offensive line coach at Alabama.
Line coach, exactly.
Good stuff.
Don't be in front of the media. He has to do the whole thing. Like, I don't... And it frustrates me every year, and I have conversations with this. I'm like, why? How come... Okay, one guy has a good defensive unit for a year. He's a head coach. That's not necessarily the case.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, just because he's a good running back doesn't mean he's a good quarterback. I think they're two completely different things. Sean McDermott's not calling the defense. Leslie Frazier handles the defense.
Yeah.
Dave McDermott handles the whole prize. The CEO from the coordinators down to the equipment staff. He knows everything that's going on. And it takes a special individual, Tomlin, Reed, Harbaugh of our generation, to do that. And I think that's what's special about McDermott is you have to have, Matt Nagy was the worst. He could not let go of his offense.
Yeah.
And he had to be involved. And instead of focusing on the big picture and letting the guy he's paying a couple $1 million a year calls offense, he had to be involved, neglecting the rest of his team. And I just think everybody has their certain purpose on a team, and I think Dayball's a great offensive coordinator. And if that's all he is, what's wrong with that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, it's and you bring up Mularkey. He was the Jaguars coach. People forget for 1 year.
Yep.
So
and then Tennessee for a cup of coffee. I think he was there when they drafted Mariota.
Yeah, he was there for a bit. So I want to go to this list. So of these names, because we all know Marv came before this. Yeah. So we got Marv to Sean McDermott. We'll talk about that in a second. So if Greg Williams is your least favorite of these 7, if Wade is your favorite, Greg Williams is your least at 7. Let's fill in the blank here. Mike Mularkey, Dick Duran, Chan Gailey, Doug Marone, Rex Ryan. Let's go from favorite to least favorite. That was in between Marv and Sean McDermott.
Rex Ryan too, just a great personality.
Okay.
You know. He's not on your list because he was interim, but Perry Fuel.
What'd you say?
Perry Fuel. He was the interim. I thought he was going to get the head coaching job, honestly.
Yeah.
And
because Anthony Lynn also was on there. So.
Yeah, Anthony Lynn. Yep.
So Perry Fuel's your 3rd.
Yep.
Okay. And then we have Mularkey, Duran.
Chan Gailey is 6.
Okay, 6.
That wasn't a fit from the start.
Yeah. That's another guy you forget was there.
Yeah, for sure. Another guy. He's been a really good offensive coordinator. He's never worked.
Gus Bradley, good defensive coordinator. Defensive coordinator again. Just didn't fit as a head coach for us. Cared about his guys. Super nice. I rooted for him. I really liked being around Gus Bradley, but he's really good at a defensive coordinator position. Head coach, it didn't work out. It didn't translate to wins.
And I think Rex is a really good coordinator, and he got his second opportunity because of how demonstrative and outgoing his personality is.
Yeah.
He was a great defensive coordinator, but you know what I mean? So I guess that other list, I mean, the rest of them, Duran put at 5, Mularkey, we got there.
You got 4. Okay.
The rest of them you can just list because I didn't like any of them.
All right. Okay. So if we move Greg Williams to 8 because you brought in Perry Fuel. So 1, Wade Phillips, Rex Ryan, Perry Fuel, then 4.
Dick Duran.
5, Mularkey or Marone?
Mularkey.
Okay. So then that makes Marone 7.
Yeah, Marone abandoned 2 of my favorite teams. So.
Yeah. So we look at it like this: between Marv and Sean McDermott for head coaches, outside Anthony Lynn, who was there for a second. So between Marv and Sean McDermott, the coaches were Wade Phillips, Greg Williams, Mike Mularkey, Dick Duran, Chan Gailey, Doug Marone, Rex Ryan, Perry Fuel. Not in that order, of course.
Right.
And so, where does he stack up in the history of NFL coaches?
The best to never win one. I think he's actually one of the most impressive NFL coaches just because to get your team to buy back in after losing one Super Bowl is hard.
Yeah.
To get your team to buy back in after losing two is damn near impossible. He did it 4 times, which is impressive.
Yeah. 4 times, and and it was the NFC East.
Yeah.
And it was just Super Bowl after. And the thing is, what people underestimate about Buffalo is, when they talk about, they lost 4 right there. They lost 4 straight, whatever. When you look at that, they say, well, they were losers. I look at that a different way and go, do you know how hard it is to advance to the Super Bowl and represent one half of the NFL? Like, to make it 4 times like that, I'm sitting there looking at them going, yeah, they lost, but they made it.
And
were they the best team to not win? I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's so. You got to think, it's so hard to do. Nobody's done it since.
Like, how do you make?
Like not even one. Nobody's been to 4 straight Super Bowls, whether win or lose.
And that's the thing is, like, how do you get to 4 straight? Even if you lost, how do you even get there? How are you that good to get there? So people remember history that way, and they remember Norwood and all that. So they remember all the negatives of history. Mm-hmm. I look at Buffalo and go, you got there 4 times in a row. It's unheard of.
No, for sure.
It is absolutely unheard of.
It just shows the type of leader he is to get those personalities.
It's almost half a decade.
And getting those egos to get back on the horse and go after and try to get it again is, and especially the way they lost in devastating fashion in the first one with Scott Norwood. I mean, to get back up for that and go back, I mean, it's impressive.
It is. And to see, what, and I don't know what it is about the AFC East, but Buffalo lost those Super Bowls to the NFC East, and the NFC East is the only division to beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But you see, the Giants did it twice,
and the
Eagles did it. So the NFC East versus the AFC East, the NFC has the number. So when we look at these 2 divisions set in the same area of the country, the NFC has had the AFC's number, be it the Bills or be it the Patriots.
100%, yeah. I mean, Philly's special. Shout out to all my people in Allentown. Go Eagles.
And I think the cool thing about it is everybody, and this thing with the Patriots, there's Patriot fans, and then there's 31 teams that have fan bases, and whenever the Patriots play anybody, whenever the Super Bowl or anything is there in the playoffs, there's 31 franchise fans that bond together to go 31 against 1.
100%.
It's the only team in America that will get 31 fan bases to literally band together, root against you, because when the Steelers lost to the Jaguars, you know what the fans said after that? They looked at the Jaguars fans that were there and they said, "Hey, kick his ass for us."
Exactly.
That's what everybody said coming out of there. Like, if they lose, it was okay. If we lose to you, you got to beat Tom Brady.
Right.
If we lose to you, you got to beat Bill Belichick. It's the only time I've ever seen in the history of the NFL, except for maybe the Cowboys back in the day, where 31 franchises will look you in the eye and say, "If we're not
the scale," but I think if you were not a fan of the Chiefs, I think you're thinking the same thing for the Bills. If you're a neutral fan, you want Buffalo to go in and beat Kansas City on Sunday, 100%.
Yeah, you do. Because you don't want to hear any more about Pat Mahomes,
right,
Tyreek Hill, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and this and that. I mean, it is. I mean, I think there's going to be Bills fans that aren't Bills fans this weekend.
Correct. Oh, 100%. I mean, I've gotten texts.
I want them to beat Kansas City because you look at literally who kept you out of the Super Bowl. Kansas City stood right there, 38-24 in Kansas City a year ago. Now they're in your way again in the same place a week early, and you're staring at them going, we got to go through them to have the right to go to the Super Bowl. So, I think for Buffalo, you can't help but have it on your mind a little bit. 38-24, Kansas City, Missouri, back at Arrowhead. We got to beat their butt again. I mean, this game has set up to either repeat history or make new history.
Yeah, and like we talked off the before we got on air here, I was saying, I think the only thing I take away of that Week 5 game against Kansas City is that Buffalo proved to themselves that they can go into Arrowhead and get a win. I don't care about who was playing, the statistics, what the score was. They have gotten over that mental hurdle similar to the Patriots, where they finally proved themselves a couple weeks ago in Gillette that with Mac Jones, everything going, they can go in and beat Belichick. And I think it's going to be the same way this week. I think week 5 was so big only for their mental, yes, we can win in Arrowhead.
And improves your psyche.
100%.
Because you think you can win, but now they go look at the film and they know that they did it.
You can physically see, yes, we won and we dominated that game in Arrowhead.
We got this victory. We've seen it happen. We know what we did then. We know what we utilized to be successful. We know how to do it. You're not watching film of another team that did it.
Right.
You're not thinking about doing it. You did it. You physically had it happen. And that's what you said. Like, once you knock it down, you know, like they say with a shooter, right? You're 0 for 5, 0 for 7, 0 for 10. You hit that first 3, and now you're like, okay, I saw the ball go in the basket, so now I know it can, so now I'm going to keep shooting.
Yeah, there's going to be, now they can go out and play free, no hesitation.
Yeah.
And I don't care whatever they're going to say. That's, well, 100% would be in the back of every, if they lost that week 5 game, that's in the back of every Bills player's mind, 100%.
They kept us out of the Super Bowl, and now they beat us again. So now we're trying to beat Pat Mahomes for the first time.
Like,
now
we got to go on the road. We got to beat him there. Can we do it?
Right, and so now it's not that feeling. Now it's, hey guys, we already did it in week 5. We know what we did. Let's go do it again. By the way, Danny Espinoza is trying to win prizes here at Pizza Man, and so he was disqualified.
Yeah,
so
he's cooler.
He said that he would quit and then come back a week later so that he could get the cooler in order for it to not be, within the family. So I want to talk to you about your all Bills team of all time. Like, if you had to choose your Bills team of any era, anything, you could put it together like a fantasy football of all history. You could put any Bills offense, defense, special teams together. I want to know the team you would put on the field if it didn't matter what decade and you could just pull from anywhere and make that your team. What would be your fantasy dream team of the Bills?
We won't do offensive lineman, correct?
You do whatever you want.
No, we won't. So, Josh Allen's quarterback.
Okay.
Man.
I want to write this down so I can keep it here with me.
Josh Allen's quarterback, and I think Jim Kelly's even admitted it himself. I'll reiterate, it's okay to not be as good as Josh Allen. It's something,
okay.
You know what I mean? At football, it's okay.
So Josh Allen's your quarterback.
Running back, Thurman.
Of course.
And now, of course, you need 2 running backs, so McCoy. I would have O.J. Simpson, but we're going to leave him off this list.
Okay. Don't worry, he'll try to steal this list back.
Yeah, he will.
Okay.
I know you don't have fullbacks in fantasy, but he was there for 2 years. Larry Centers, remember him?
Yeah. I remember.
Shows you how much the NFL's changed. I think it was 2000.
There's a few teams that still have it. I thought it's got to be a prerequisite.
Right.
But if you look at the NFL with 32 franchises, you could maybe find 6 that have a fullback.
Yeah.
And of the teams that do, they're successful.
Yeah.
You look at San Fran had Kyle out there. He was doing good things all the way to the Super Bowl. Tony Fiametta, who played for Syracuse, went on to Carolina to be their fullback. So, there's the fullback it's an underappreciated role that I think really deserves more love. And if you want to know the last time that Dallas was really great, you look at Moose Johnston.
Yeah, for sure.
Who played right here in Syracuse.
Yeah,
so.
and yeah, for sure. And I look at Larry. It just shows how much the NFL has changed. And I think it was 2002 or 2003. Yeah. He had 80 catches as a fullback.
And I'm thinking, and I wanna prove myself right when I think about Larry Centers, and I'm looking it up right now. And if I'm wrong,
for the Cardinals, majority of his career.
That's where I was wrong.
He played for when they went from Phoenix to Arizona.
Yeah. I was thinking Washington for some reason.
He might have had a run in Washington at the end. He had 2 years in Buffalo, but he had 80 catches as a fullback. That just shows you how much the
There's
game
receivers that were drafted high that will never have 80 catches in a season.
There's guys that get incentives now to get 80 catches. And fullback.
Well, Marvin Jones Jr., he got $500,000 for getting 80 catches in the last game of the season.
Larry Centers trying to come back and.
He did play for Washington. I'm not crazy.
For another, 1 year after Buffalo.
He played at Arizona, and then he played 2 seasons in Washington, and then came on to Buffalo, and then ended in New England. So
okay,
yeah. So I was right.
So I'll have them as fullback. I'm gonna go with receivers, and you don't have to put them in an order. I'm just gonna give you the 3: is Andre Reed,
love it,
Diggs, and Eric Moulds. And if you want a number 4, I'll take Lee Evans. I know it was a shorter time, but I know Diggs has been short, but Lee Evans was...
Do you feel like Lee Evans, that there was like something that we never got to see?
Yeah.
Like there was more in the tank?
If Lee Evans had Josh Allen, I think you'd see something pretty special.
Like, if this was my list, Eric Moulds would have definitely been on it. And Andre Reed is one of those guys that when you're not a Bills fan, you still respected Andre Reed. Like when we had those conversations before, like the guy that you just knew, even if, like, you know what I mean? Like you just know guys in the NFL that are really, really good, even if they're not on your team.
He's a small D2 dude. I actually went to Kutztown University.
Yeah, there was a Kutztown thing here.
Yeah,
so.
he was a tight end there. So there's your position change, small school.
I like that you put Stephon Diggs on here. Why'd you do it?
Because I'm looking at that dude is, well, one, he shattered every record his year one. He's just special. I mean,
well, he came in the last game of the season and he had like 100-something yards to get to 1,000. Isn't that where it was?
He needed, yeah.
It's like 100.
No, he had 1,000 yards. He needed 100 catches.
100 catches, yeah.
And I think he had 94. And dude's just a dog, and I respect how he just had that. He got a really bad rap in Minnesota. I mean, he's been nothing but great at Buffalo.
Well, you come to Buffalo and everybody knows you're going to be the guy, and you're playing your best football now. Even though when he was in Minnesota, he was pretty dang good. So.
Yeah, no, he was awesome, and I think it's. I think Diggs. I say it looking into the future more of dude's going to be here for 4. He's probably going to have at the end of the day every Bills receiving record. I would think. Would be my guess. Yeah. Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is the incentive. Like Marvin Jones knew about it, and so they were talking about it like going into the game, and they asked Darrell Bevell.
Guys on the list, and I might be prisoner of the moment, biased because it's my edge. I think this is the best Bills team they've ever had, talent-wise.
Well, I told you. I said this might be the most excited I've ever been for the Bills,
Yeah.
and I respect the heck out of Bruce Smith and Eric Moulds and Thurman Thomas and Jim Kelly. So.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Bruce Smith was my favorite player growing up. I was 4'6" kid in Pop Warner wearing number 78.
Yeah. He's one of the guys, too. Like, you just knew he was a big... Like, if you had a short list of 3 guys you never wanted to face on the field, Bruce Smith was on that list.
100%. Yeah, he's all-time sack leader. I
So,
think he's the only one over 200. So, yeah. So, there's my...
that's your offense.
Tight end.
Oh, tight end, yeah.
Ooh. This was tough. And then you got Reamersma, Scott Chandler... And who else? I think you can, if you want to put Knox on Diggs, I think Knox is going to have a terrific career.
I'm really pleasantly happy that Knox took this year and immediately got effective in fantasy, in reality. Like how he started off this year and what he's been able to do. I was hoping last year and I was underwhelmed. And then this year I was like, it's respectable.
It goes back to your McDermott and Bean have showed nothing but patience.
Yeah.
Patience. We're all on our roof, screaming on our rooftops in August. Trade for Ertz, trade for Ertz, trade for Ertz. Knox has been unbelievable. They had that vision that's why they're executives and we're not. They've had patience with Josh. They've had patience with everybody, the Pagulas too.
Yeah. I didn't want them to get Ertz. I did not want that to happen.
No, I like Knox too because he's another guy. Mississippi, he was at Ole Miss. He never had a career receiving touchdown at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And having to be a 3rd-round pick. That shows you they're not worried about your numbers.
So, who's your tight end?
Give me Knox. Heat of the moment.
All right, Dawson Knox. Like it. Let's go defense. Your all-time. This is Jeff Cook's all-time Bills team. I'm going to put it up on our social media after the show, and I want to see what people think about it.
I'm going to go 2 DNs. I'm going to go Bruce Smith and Aaron Schobel.
Okay. Bruce Smith and Aaron Schobel.
If he was there longer. Mario Williams, he was awesome. He had 11.5 sacks a year while he was there. Just I don't know. Defensive tackles, I'll go Kyle Williams and Pat Williams.
Okay. Like it.
Linebackers, I'm going
Kyle Williams and Pat Williams, okay.
I'm going the Biscuit, Cornelius Bennett, Darryl Talley, London Fletcher, and Paul Posluszny.
All right. Darryl Talley, give me them again. London Fletcher.
Yep, and Paul Posluszny.
And who was the first one you said?
Cornelius Bennett.
Cornelius Bennett. And here's the thing. So I was so happy because Posluszny came from Penn State.
Yep.
I was so happy that he came to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Before he And I can say this, being around a bunch of NFL players in my history and, like, being in the locker room and seeing the guys, like, when they're, like, no shirt, Paul Posluszny looked like he was a bodybuilder that was wearing, like, a body suit of a bodybuilder on top of his body. His neck was, like, so far set back. He literally looked like what an action figure would look like. Yeah. And I remember I finally got to interview Paul Posluszny when he was on Jacksonville, and it was actually in the Bills stadium because he had played the Bills. And I went into the locker room, and I think he had, like, done interviews or something, and I asked, like, can I talk to him? And he gave me a few minutes, and I was so happy that I got to talk to him before he retired.
Yeah, his traps were up to his ears. Dude is massive.
He's insane.
He's a tackling machine.
And I knew, I was like, as soon as he leaves Jacksonville, we're going to suffer. And we did.
Yeah, he's a tackling machine. Cornerbacks, I'm going Antoine Winfield.
Antoine Winfield, yeah.
And I'll give you Trey White. I'll just give you two. I don't want to piss people off too much.
Antoine Winfield.
I'm looking at Bill over there.
And Trey White. Okay. Safeties.
Again, I don't care. They got the best duo in the league. Give me the two now. But I'll say this. I'll say Dante Whitner had a hell of a career there, and Mark Kelso was pretty awesome too.
All right, so let the world know who you're picking. Your safeties now.
We got what? 72 plus hours. I'll give Hyde and Poyer. You got to ride the hot hand.
Okay.
But just remember, I said Mark Kelso as well.
Okay. And then, do you want to pick any special teams or no?
Steve Tasker, best special teamer of all time. Okay. Should be in the Hall of Fame.
All right. So that's your list. So we got it. Josh Allen is your quarterback. Dawson Knox, your safeties now. You get Stephon Diggs. So you got some now guys, which I can respect, and I like it. So it's nice to see there's a mix of history, there's some mix of now. The Josh Allen over Jim Kelly argument, why?
I think, well, one, what Josh Allen has done in such a short period of time is, I mean, numbers, nothing alone. Watching him on the field, is just different than any quarterback. It's different than Jim Kelly, and I didn't get to see Jim as much, but my dad said he's like, yeah, it's different, and Jim agrees too. And I think the way Jim Kelly didn't come into a drought with a city that was desperate for a winner. Yeah. And Josh kind of just embraced it all, and he has just been nothing but amazing since. So, Josh has, it's him and Mahomes in terms of arm strength and Josh's ability. I think he's overall the most talented quarterback. Talented, I'm not saying best. Talented quarterback in the NFL.
So, Jeff Cook's all-time Bills quarterback, Josh Allen. And then we have running backs, Thomas and McCoy, fullback centers, receivers, Reed, Diggs, Moulds, and Evans, tight end Knox, DNs, Bruce Smith and Schobel, and then we have Mario Williams in parentheses here. D tackles, Kyle and Pat Williams. Linebackers, we have Talley, Fletcher, Posluszny, and Bennett. And then we have corners, Winfield and White, safeties, Poyer and Hyde, and Steve Tasker for special teams.
That's right, yep.
The all-time team for the Buffalo Bills.
That's it.
What did you say?
Brian Warman, great punter. Not Matt Hack or whatever his name is. Yeah, that bozo.
So, and I remember it. I don't think I'll ever forget what Dino said this year when he said when he brought in the backup punter, and he said, "You don't understand," because they said he kicked the 8-yard punt, and then they got the 5-yard penalty, so it was a 3-yard punt. And so after all that, he said at the end of the game, I'm standing in the press conference, and they asked him about the punter, and he goes, "You don't get it. He's a specialty punter. Like he has special kicks that he does." And I remember first thought in my mind, I go, well, I guess kicking an 8-yard punt is a special thing. I guess it is a specialty to shank an 8-yard punt. You wouldn't expect it, so I guess it is a special type of punt. So, final notes here. We got into a lot of things. What did we not hit on that you want to touch on for the BVille Bills backers here at Pizza Man?
We didn't touch on, both of us got to give what we think keys to the game Sunday and what do we think's going to happen.
Ingredients to success. That's where I was going to head. Okay, fair enough. So keys to success. You just gave your team, so I guess I'll give them here. So Buffalo's keys to success here are obviously to harass Pat Mahomes and make sure that when he runs around to keep him in front of him. Don't let him get around you. I would say, Tyreek Hill, arguably the fastest guy out there. So you have to, you're not going to completely shut him down, but you got to hope to contain him to a certain extent. I think, just making sure. Travis Kelce's been underwhelming this year, but you got to be prepared for that. Understand that, like we talked about, the psyche, you now know you can beat them. You know you can do it. You know you can do it in Arrowhead. But with knowing that you can do it, you don't have to worry about the big bad wolf. But you can't rest on your laurels. You got to let that go. This isn't an extension of that game. It's a new game. So let it help you know that the confidence is there. There's a boost to your confidence, but don't let it become an ego. So confidence, not ego. What else I would say? Never give up on yourselves in this game. If you are playing from behind, Kansas City can pour it on early. They can get after you early, and they can. And if they hit you and they hit you again, I think the biggest thing for Buffalo, if you go down 14-0, 14-3, is to play your game. Don't change who you are. Be who you are and stay focused. So I would say, don't let the moment be too big for you. Don't think about last season. Don't let yourself get to a point where, if Kansas City goes up big, don't let them get into your head. And then, like I said about Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, you're not going to stop him completely. Try to contain him. And, the other note that I would say to Buffalo is understand what you can do. Understand when you had your lull and your dip this season. Realize what that is. Only you in the locker room truly know 100% what that was. Understand what the secret sauce was to beat you. Because by knowing the sauce to beat you, you're not going to let it beat you. So you got to take what you know it is and understand what those things are and make sure that you use that to your advantage. So instead of being like, oh my God, we got to make sure nobody knows what this is, understand your weaknesses better than anybody else does, is what I would say.
No, 100%. And I think one of the biggest things for them is keep it simple. Yeah. Don't overdo it. You get in the red zone. They've kind of gotten cute a little bit in the red zone. Not as of late, and it's showing. I would love to see 6 to 8, 7 to 9 design Josh Allen runs. It's virtually unstoppable. And I think, on the other hand, Kansas City's notoriously, at least this year, they started slow, and Buffalo started fast. You start fast, just be ready to hold them off, because they're going to get theirs eventually.
Yeah.
But I think I look at like the Chiefs-Steelers game. If the Chiefs start like they did against Pittsburgh, they can look up and the Bills could be up 21-0. So I think keep it simple. Don't overdo anything. Play your game. And I think, and that starts with McDermott and everybody. Don't let the moment get too big.
Yeah.
We don't need to dive into the X's and O's. I'd love to see the design run, but Buffalo plays their best football, they win. If Buffalo plays their best football and Kansas City plays their best football, Buffalo wins this game.
Yeah, and I have Buffalo winning. You have Buffalo winning. What's your score?
I think Buffalo wins 37-31.
Okay. So, Jeff, your score is 37-31?
Yeah.
What you said? Okay.
Yeah, actually changed that to 37-24, Buffalo.
37-24, okay. And reminiscent of the score last year that was the other way, 38-24 Kansas City.
I like it.
All right. So Jeff says 37-24 Buffalo. I am going to say...
Remember, we got a good chance of predicting the scores winning on quick draw up here, so
yeah.
It's okay.
I'm going to have to go with my gut on this one. You can't go against your gut. So the score that came to my mind first, it's closer than I want it to be, but 27-24 Buffalo.
Be their first one-score victory of the year, so.
Yeah. I'm going to give them 27-24. You got them 37-24. So we got the same score for Kansas City and the same end score. So if somebody were to gamble and got the numbers 7 and 4,
be in good shape with our scores.
Either one of us, you would win. So it'll be interesting. You got them 10 ahead of mine. 37-24 Buffalo, 27-24. I have Buffalo. For Jeff Cook, for the BVille Bills backers, for Pizza Man, and for Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and of course myself, Dan Tortora, we appreciate you being here. We implore you to watch and listen every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. for Wake Up Call at our normal times in the morning, and on YouTube as well as on Facebook and mixlr.com, all /Wake Up Call DT, making it easy. Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.com. You can also catch Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on Stitcher, Spotify, MixLR, YouTube, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Podbean, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio. And a proud thanks to all of our partners in the community, especially Pizza Man Pub, where we are every single month bringing you Wake Up Call on site, on location. Always appreciate being here with you. Want to thank the Delia family for all that they do. I want to thank them for the lemon pepper wings that they do better than the Lou Wills down south. So for Jeff Cook, myself, Dan Tortora, for all you Bills fans all over the world, to Bills Mafia, the Bills backers, the BVille Bills backers, you know where to go in Central and Upstate New York. BVille Bills backers come to watch the games at Pizza Man exclusively, 50 Oswego Street, Baldwinsville, New York. For the Delias, for Jeff, for myself, and for all you awesome Bills fans, nobody circles them wagons.